You're listening to LOA Recon with the Good Vibe coach Jeanette Ma, where we dissect the ins and outs and the art and science of conscious creation, all intended to amp up your manifesting game. Let's have some fun together. Hello, fellow creators. This episode is brought to you by Donella, who sent me the sweetest email the other day about how much she's enjoying these podcasts. Thanks again for all the notes you guys send. I really enjoy reading them. And what I wanted to share about today was something that's been on my mind for a while. I get a lot of feedback from people who've heard some of my favorite manifesting stories. In fact, if you've listened to all of the episodes here, you've probably heard them too. One of them was when, the very first time I scripted, total skeptic, didn't think any of this was a real thing, but I scripted how amazing it was that my foster dog got adopted, and after 3 months of that guy having no interest whatsoever, he had 2 perfect families, exactly like I'd scripted, fighting over him within 48 hours of me scripting as a skeptic. And then the next day, Oakley got adopted, and then 2 days after that, a local rescue group took 2 of my other big dogs off my hands. So that's one of my favorite stories. It's a scripting story that inspires a lot of fellow creators to practice scripting. That's where you talk about what you want as if it's already happened. One of my other favorite early manifesting stories is Pray Rain journaling. Oh, remember that one? That's the time that I just came out of that meeting where they basically told us we were all fired if we didn't turn our numbers around. And so I went back to my desk. We were salespeople. And instead of doing everything they'd been having us do, I was like, what sounds better than this? And I'd heard of this thing called Pray Rain journaling, where you write a page a day in a brand new journal. You write a page a day about what you want as if it's already happened. And the promise is by the time you get to the end of your book, you will have it, or it'll be so close you can reach out and touch it. So I wrote a page about how great it was that prospects found me and how excited they were to hear about my product and what a great fit it was and what great rapport we had and how they couldn't wait. It was complete fantasy from what I'd been experiencing. Oh my word, trust me, the reality was not that. But that's what I journaled about, my ideal outcome. And then within less than 2 hours, I had closed a sale. After 4 months on the job, I hadn't even had a conversation really with anyone who was willing to even consider buying this product. So it was a pretty dramatic result. Okay, those stories make a lot of people excited to start a journal or to start scripting. And lots of people get fabulous results from that. But those who don't, I think it's because when I tell the story, I'm emphasizing the parts where you write the page or you speak about what you want as if it's already happened. And it's easy to overlook the other magic that was happening there. Here's what that other magic was. This might be the missing ingredient to your own manifesting success if you aren't seeing dramatic results as well with whatever your manifesting process is. But for example, with the scripting, I didn't just talk about how great it was that my dog got adopted. I also gave myself huge relief. Those of you who've heard the story know that came in the form of going to bed. I gave up on life. I was in such a dark place. I couldn't do it anymore. I literally went to bed and put the covers over my head. Okay, but guess what that was? It was relief. It felt better than continuing this ridiculous slog through life that was just beating me down. It was relief. A lot of people miss the value of that part of the story. It's not a very fun part. It's not very exciting or sexy, but that part where you do what feels better, such a key part to our manifesting success. And also, what was going for me there, I'm laughing because you might not think of this as an advantage, but what I had going for me in that situation was huge, huge contrast, as Abraham calls it. I was in a dark place. I'd had a little nervous breakdown, I don't know. Well, that's why I read the book about scripting, because I'd had a breakdown in the backyard and went to bed as a person who was done with life. That's when I read the book because I got bored in bed. And I read her book, and that's when I practiced scripting. But that contrast, that's what fuels huge success. And I'm not saying we have to go have a terrible time in order to have a dream come true, But when we are having a terrible time, we can make it work for us. And it certainly was something that played into that situation. It was also present for my journaling story when basically I'd just been fired. Hello, that's not fun. I'm not a person I like security. I don't like change. I like knowing how my mortgage is going to be paid. So that was huge contrast for me to feel like the rug's going to be pulled out from under us and there's nothing any of us can do because we've been trying already. It's not like we haven't been trying to make this work. So it looked pretty bleak. But that contrast, again, it can create some really powerful stuff. So I had that going for me. But in that journaling experience, I also had a lot of people just hear the write a page about what you want as if it's already happened part of the story. But here's the other key part. I wrote that page and then I asked myself, what sounds good next? And I did it. And then after I did that, I asked myself again, what sounds good next? And then I did that. Right? That's the alignment part of the story that a lot of people miss. So, because you could be doing your scripting or writing out your pages, but if you aren't also following those inner nudges or taking that inspired action or doing something that helps put you in alignment with what you want, rather than continuing the same effort or struggle or anxiety, fears, worries, if those routines can be showstoppers. So I think it's easy to miss the power of those stories. It wasn't just the scripting and the journaling. It was also the contrast, and it was also being willing to do what felt better, even when that instruction about what felt better didn't make sense and no one would approve. I wasn't worried about bosses not approving because they basically said we were already fired. So I wasn't worried too much about what they would think, because this inspiration I got after I wrote up my page, isn't it great how they find me? They can't wait. Great rapport. After I wrote that up and I asked myself, what sounds good next? The answer I got was go to lunch. I didn't just go to lunch though. I goofed off. I had a long lunch. It was an 1.5 hour long lunch at my favorite restaurant, sitting outside. Gorgeous spring day, fed leftover pita bread to the sparrows. I really enjoyed myself. I don't know that my bosses would have approved of that, but that's not what the question was. The question wasn't, what do my bosses want me to do? Because I'd been doing that for 4 months and it wasn't working. I asked myself, what sounds good next? And then honored it when it said, go to lunch, even though everyone else was sure working their butts off. No one else was taking long lunches. And then after I had the lunch and I said, what sounds good next? And the answer was, go back to work, which surprised me. But I did, and it was in the elevator when the guy said, hey, who are you? Introduced himself to me, and turns out he'd been looking for a 401k plan, exactly what I hadn't been able to sell for 4 months. And after like a 15 or 20-minute conversation, it was sold. So I just wanted to point out what I think some people might be overlooking from some of my favorite manifesting stories. So I just share that in case anyone is overlooking some of these essential pieces from my favorite manifesting stories. It isn't just about the scripting. It isn't just about making the journal entries. It's also following up with the sorts of things that allow you to be the vibrational match to what you've ordered up from universe. So if you've got big contrast, know that it's working for you when you let it. Just finding ways to feel better, answering whatever that inner guidance or that intuition or those inner nudges say about what would feel better, and really letting the whole process work for you. Hope you got some inspiration from this, and thanks for listening. Happy manifesting, everyone.